So I don't really do a lot of videos where I'm just talking, but I was actually just taking a shower, and what came to mind was basically how I would describe my style of training. And you know, I sort of made this YouTube channel to sort of share information, and I haven't really done that a lot because I sort of feel like a lot of the bases are covered by other channels. But at the same time, I kind of want to put information out there that I would have liked to know a few years ago. You know, stuff that would have, I think, propelled my progress back when I started like 4 or 5 years ago, and I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. So, train like a powerlifter to look like a bodybuilder. Now, what do I mean by that? Obviously, I don't mean, you know, to train just like an elite powerlifter does, because obviously you see how they look. They don't look like bodybuilders. But this basically describes my style of training the best, because while I do like training, you know, powerlifting style, like focus that way, I also don't want to just look like a powerlifter. I sort of want to look more like a bodybuilder, but at the same time, not full blown either. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sort of in the middle with how I want to look. So I don't want to be strong, but look like I'm not strong, and I don't want to be weak, but look like I'm strong. You know what I'm saying? I want to look about as strong as I am. So I want, you know, my lean mass to increase with the weight that I lift. So basically, you know, I just want to talk about why I think you should do this, or just at least consider doing the same thing, or why I found this to be most optimal in my case. So there's a few things that I've seen, you know, looking at powerlifting style of training, things that powerlifters are concerned with that bodybuilders aren't as much concerned with. So, you know, powerlifters, they're more concerned with structural integrity, and they're more focused on their form. So if you go to a typical gym, most guys who work out in, you know, LA Fitness or any type of gym, they're basically doing bodybuilding style training. That's just a typical gym training with the, you know, the rep ranges in the hypertrophy range. And, you know, they're not really that focused on form. They're not really concerned of, you know, body mechanics. How can I, you know, use my body in a way to have it be most efficient to lift this weight, you know? Squatting, am I hitting proper depth? What is proper depth? Torque with the legs, the hips, proper angle of the elbows with benching, things like that. And so you really, if you train like a powerlifter, you really get to delve into these things and get a deeper understanding of how the body works and how to be safer with working out, with lifting loads and things like that. Also, powerlifters generally, they train with a higher intensity than bodybuilders. Now, this isn't always the case. There's obviously exceptions. But basically, when you're bodybuilding and you're serious, you're going to be in the gym for, you know, multiple hours at a time doing a whole bunch of reps and a whole bunch of sets. So you can't stay at a super high level of intensity when you're about to get under the bar and do 15 reps, you know, for 4 sets. But if you're doing sets of triples, singles, doubles, you can hype yourself up for that one set, that one rep, few reps, go all out, and you'll find that most of the times powerlifters, they lift with a higher intensity than bodybuilders. So I know, like, I have a day when I do bodybuilding type work, and, you know, like the music I'm listening to, sometimes I'll listen to classical, you know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have to have that upbeat music like when I'm doing my deadlifts or my squats, my heavy bench, stuff like that. It's just a whole different mindset, I feel like. So, and powerlifters also, they emphasize compound movements highly above single joint isolation movements. Now, there's nothing wrong with isolation movements in my opinion, but this emphasis on multi-joint movements is really essential for building muscle anyway. So when you find yourself, especially if you ever switch to a powerlifting gym, you find yourself making sacrifices, but really they're improvements. You're replacing these single joint movements with things like weighted dips instead of maybe a bunch of tricep extensions. And you'll find that, you know, you can progress faster in these movements, which means at the end of the day, if you do them in proper rep ranges, you know, don't necessarily do them in super low reps, but you do these movements in proper rep ranges, you'll reap the benefits of building muscle. There's a little pride component in training like a powerlifter. I feel like, you know, guys often ask, how much do you bench? Well, if you want to be able to say you bench a good amount, you have to train more like a powerlifter than a bodybuilder. Now, some people can train like a powerlifter and still get strong. I'm not one of those people. So if you're like me, then you have to sort of focus more on powerlifting to be able to have some good numbers in the gym. In powerlifting, one thing that I've seen a lot more than in bodybuilding is the whole idea of setting PRs, beating yourself, going in the gym, doing better than you did last time. Now, see, with bodybuilding, I feel like this can sort of get lost. You start to think about things like confusing the muscle and switching things up every 3 to 4 weeks and stuff like that, and you can sort of lose touch with, am I making progress? Did I beat what I did last week, last month? Stuff like that. So with powerlifting, you know, you have the same movements. You're in there to beat yourself. You can hype yourself up saying, I want to be stronger, so I'm going to beat what I did before, and it's that simple. And I find that that really helps with overall progress. So, you know, with all of this, you don't want to completely avoid basic bodybuilding principles if you want to have the benefits of both. And when I say basic bodybuilding principles, I'm basically talking about, you know, volume, rep ranges, and that's basically it. So if you want to train like a power lifter and look like a bodybuilder, you still have to sort of meet in the middle. And it's not really the middle. I'd probably say like 3/4 powerlifting, 1/4 bodybuilding. Because I say this because powerlifters, elite powerlifters, and really any good powerlifter, they still do their accessory work. So they're still hitting, you know, things like, you know, they're hitting dips, they're doing rows, dumbbell rows, different types of rows, maybe even lat pull downs. They're doing other things for the hamstrings, the quads, if their quads are weak. So they're doing things like this, and typically they're going to do them in a higher rep range. In some cases, a lot higher than their, you know, their powerlifting work, their big 3 movements. So they're already doing this. This is why I say it's sort of like 3/4 bodybuilding, because you already have that aspect. But what you want to do, I find, if you want to look more like a bodybuilder and train like a powerlifter, is you want to put more emphasis on this accessory work than you would if you were just a powerlifter. So basically, by putting more effort into these extra movements, it might affect your performance in the big 3. Not saying to a big degree, but your deadlift might not take off the way it might if you know, if your main focus was the big 3. So you still want to be, you know, going all out on the accessories as opposed to going all out only on the big 3, doing the accessories to a degree where you're able to target weak muscles but still recover well, and then keep, you know, the weight would in effect go up higher. So, you know, more volume than a typical powerlifter would do, and a little, you know, a little more effort, more intensity, more focus on things like contraction, you know, getting full contractions of the muscles, time on the tension, things like this that are emphasized by bodybuilders. You still want to keep those in mind if you want both. You know, that's basically it. That's how I feel. It's really a good way to train, a really good way to set a solid foundation, to get a good physique. And, you know, I just recently started to put the pieces together. I've been lifting for a pretty long time, in my opinion. You know, I'm still young, so a long time isn't as long as some others' long time, but it's been a few years, and I wasted a lot of time just doing bodybuilding type stuff. You know, back when I started lifting, the only stuff on the internet was bodybuilding stuff. You know, this is back when Nick Wright only did bodybuilding. He didn't care about powerlifting. It wasn't anything big. So, you know, bodybuilding.com, that's it. That's all I would look at for meals, for workouts. And so you learn a lot. You do learn a lot through those things, but it's sort of one-sided, and I feel like by entering into powerlifting, by seeing all of that, I sort of found that it's best to lean towards powerlifting while still getting some of the bodybuilding benefits. So just a little information I wanted to share. I hope you guys watched it all the way through. It was a lot of talking, but I think this will benefit some people. Definitely, I would have appreciated seeing this video when I was younger. So share it with somebody if they're just starting to work out. Let me know in the comments how you feel about, training like this, your training style, what you think works best. Let me know, spark a conversation. So that's it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Deuces.